Friends, I know it has been a month since my last episode, so my apologies. Been doing a lot of traveling, and Lolo's been doing a lot of traveling, and Teddy's been doing a lot of traveling, and just trying to get that end of summer, beginning of fall fun in there. So that meant not doing the podcast for a little while, but don't you worry. There's plenty coming. And in fact, we're going to have an episode in just a few days. But first, I wanted to do something kind of different. We've done special episodes on other things. This one's a tribute, really. So many folks in the community, particularly in the United States, knew my friend IdiotWind. And if you are a longtime Love and Brief listener, you probably do too. He was on episode 34. He was on the pre-cap episode in 2019. And I'm about to play his first episode with us way, way, way back 6 years ago when we were first starting Love in Brief. And he was on episode 6 that early. I interviewed him I was in an airport, like one of those little booths you get in. And I remember just being so excited to find this booth, contact my friend, and have this conversation. He was brilliant, and he was super kind and so funny and thoughtful and wise. Man, was he wise. And so many of us in the community really learned a ton from him. So I wanted to play this because he passed away and because we're sad and we miss him. And I wanted you to get to hear him, maybe for the first time if you haven't listened all the way back. Maybe you are getting to listen to him again, but I hope you'll join me in celebrating and listening to this short interview with my friend and a guy who was a friend to many of us, IdiotWind. And then next week, we're going to do an episode talking about this very topic. We're going to talk about grief and loss and how we deal with it, both inside of the community and out. So here is my friend, IdiotWind. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Love in Brief, an ABDL advice podcast. I am Resident Yes, and today I am without my wife and co-host, Road Not Taken. We have been ships in the night all week, which, if you haven't listened to episode 4, it's called Ships in the Night. And it's all about what happens when you can't be together, but you still have a relationship. I am actually in an airport right now in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and found a quiet spot. So we're trying an experiment, which is, can we record a Love and Brief episode? A, without the best part, Road Not Taken, and B, in an airport. I don't know. Here we go. I'm thrilled to have on Love and Brief my friend, IdiotWind, as you might know him on FetLife, or IdiotWind75, as you might know him on Instagram. Welcome to Love and Brief.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's always nice to talk to you.
Likewise. See, we get to, regardless of how this ridiculous experiment goes, we get to chat, so we're going to chalk that up to a win. So here's the question, and this question comes to us from @HereIsDiaperHeaven on Tumblr, who submitted a bunch of great questions, so you'll probably hear that name again. And the question goes like this. Tips for somebody to avoid the creepy guy perception. And Here Is Diaper Heaven says, I like to believe I'm fairly well screwed together as a person, but I'm terrified that I'll come off as just another creep to a lovely girl, someone who annoys or disgusts her. And I can tell you this is a feeling that I have had, and it's something that I think a lot of people have had online when they're trying to approach other people. And I would love to know if you have any advice for Here Is Diaper Heaven.
What I would say to this question is, you gotta start by being yourself. And if you're new to meeting folks in real life or online, that can be really daunting because I can say from my experience, I spent years just watching and observing, and that in itself may come off as creepy, but I think it has served me in the long run because while when it came time that I was able to start meeting folks in real life, I did have at least the experience of what doesn't work or kind of how people react to things that don't work. And by that, I mean coming on too strong, making assumptions about other people before you even talk to them. One of the things that I faced when I very first kind of ventured out into the munch world was I was just terrified. I mean, I already don't do well with meeting strangers, so my antenna were way up, and also I can be pretty shy and introverted, especially in a group setting. So what I would really recommend is be as close to yourself as you can as soon as you can, and then B is check in. Check in with people you trust, kind of as you evolve and as you stay connected with these folks. It's always good to kind of check yourself, and that's what I did. One time when I was getting reactions from other people that I wasn't expecting. Luckily, I had a friend in the group who I really trusted, and I knew that if I asked her kind of how I might be being perceived, I knew she would tell me. So I had a heart to heart conversation, and I was kind of afraid to, because I was afraid of the answer, but I trusted that my friend would be honest with me, and she was. It was no longer I was no longer concerned about how people were receiving me in a way that I wasn't trying to be, and I did feel like I was kind of able to shed my skin a little bit more, drop a little bit more of my defenses, which took a while to shake off, and now I'm seeing these people like 3-4 times a week, and it's fabulous. And I also think that it helps to really, really try to not have expectations, especially if you're really angling for a partner, because some people are going to be really cool and really amazing to you, and they're not necessarily doing it to start a romantic connection with you.
That's good.
And that needs to be okay, because they're amazing friends too.
And I'll just add one more small piece of advice, which is, and it's actually in line with what you said about expectations, which is if you're pretending to be something, or you expect or want something from somebody else, that's creepy just by its nature. And so my number one piece of advice for not being creepy is to not have another motive for whatever it is that you're doing. Because humans are amazingly fine-tuned social animals that pick up on micro cues in expression, in vocal tone. We're incredible at discovering disingenuity in other people, and there's nothing creepier than disingenuity, except for maybe the unwanted, touch or something. But
or just a genuine creep.
yeah, or an actual creep. So, I think to your point about staying yourself and not having expectations, I would check in on your own self and on your own heart as you go through the evening. And you'll probably notice, oh gosh, I'm feeling nervous. But look beneath and go, am I trying to get something out of this other than what I'm putting forward? So it's okay if what you want is a relationship. If you want to come forward and say that, what you can't do is show up and say, I'm just here to meet friends, when what you're actually trying to do is start a relationship. My encouragement would be, try and make friends first. And if you are interested in a relationship, awesome. And see if that can bloom, that's great. But if you're going in trying to find that person and nail them down, they're going to smell it all over you. And there's nothing creepier than that.
That's good advice. Yeah.
On a practical note, and I know this is love in brief, so we'll have to wrap up, but on a practical note, there are a couple things. So when we say things like, hey, just be yourself, right, that's very hard to do. Or be authentic, that's very in the clouds. I think it's the most helpful way to be, but I think it's also very in the clouds. A couple other things you might think about. In episode 2, we talked with Penguin about some tips for approaching people online and how not to be creepy. So you might check that out. And a couple pieces that I would pull from that. One is, even if you're at a FETI event or chat or even online,
consider talking to people like you would at a cocktail party. Because there are some things you just would never say to somebody at a cocktail party or, a friend's house. Consider starting that way. If they want to go somewhere that's more topic-oriented, they will. But it's not something you would run up to somebody and just start yelling about. So consider that. Think of them as a person first. And the second thing is, if you're feeling nervous, it's okay to just stay more quiet and just ask meaningful questions. Everybody likes to be able to tell a little bit about themselves. And so if you're not sure what to talk about, ask questions about things you're interested in. And it's a great way to get to know somebody. Unless those questions are like, what's in your underwear drawer or wet, messy, or both. You actually will get to know them in a way that is probably pretty endearing and not creepy.
I couldn't agree more. One of my tips as an introverted person, especially when meeting medium to large groups of strangers, is to conduct interviews. Where are you from? Where do you call home? What's your story? What brings you here today? Those are easy questions that I think are safe enough for the most nervous person to be able to answer. And once you start building that rapport, it gets a lot easier.
But again, I'll say you have to kind of mean it. So if you're saying, "Hey, where are you from?" but what you really mean is, "Can I get in your pants?" They're going to see right through it, and that's creepy. Right. Thank you, Here's Diaper Heaven, for the question, and thank you, IdiotWind, for being on Love and Brief.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much.
We'll see you next week.